and earning the kind of cash that forced them to work an off-season job selling men's suits. He has not played it down in this man's league, and yet his awesome potential has garnered him his own Adidas shoe and a sports car valued at $250,000. Bedecked with the brutally frank bumper sticker, "If the Diabolos are rockin', don't come knockin'." He even has his own website upon yonder internet, begging this urgent email if he guzzles a mere portion of the nectar that flows from the cup of his own greatness. Will we one day reach him at http:// Canton, Ohio? Wow, if he lives up to, I don't want to put too much pressure on a young player, but if he lives up to half that potential, I look for this guy to catch 260, 280 balls next year. I know that's more Sterling's department, but that's my assessment. What a player.
Can you live up to the potential that you set every year, Nick, at the draft? 7 hours, we're all punchy, but you crack us up. Nick Buckeye, as the man says, the numbers never lie. Keyshawn Johnson, first draft pick of the New York Jets. Will yesterday be a great memory in the future of the Jets?
With the first selection in the first round, the New York Jets select Keyshawn Johnson, wide receiver, Southern California.
Hey, that car's dull and dry. Looks like it needs some body wet. No, not that. New Body Wet by Black Magic. It's the world's first clear car polish with the unique wet look. Body Wet gives you a shine that's so rich, so thick, it actually looks wet. It really is easy to give your car the most incredible high-gloss finish you've ever seen. Get a superior shine with the innovative Body Wet by Black Magic. Now only $14.95. And if you call today, we'll send you a second bottle of Body Wet for just $5 more. But wait, we'll also give you the incredible Tire Wet by Black Magic absolutely free. One quick mist with Tire Wet and your tires will look brand new again. All this for just $19.95. So if your car looks dry, give Body Wet a try. Call now.
Have your credit card ready and call 1-800-487-9933 or send $14.95 for one bottle or $19.95 for two bottles with Tire Wet plus $5.95 shipping to Body Wet, P.O. Box 2978, Framingham, Massachusetts.
How do you keep track of everything that happens in the world of motor racing? You drive with us. RPM Tonight, the ultimate wrap-up of the day that was in the world of motor racing. Tonight at 7, only on ESPN2.
We've been telling you ESPN Radio, ESPN1, ESPN2, and the ESPNnet Sports Zone with complete coverage. Hop on at espnnet.sportszone.com and get, if you haven't been writing down all the picks as you go along, you can dial in, get online today, and pull down your favorite team and see how they did throughout the 95 draft or 96 draft or every pick that's been taken thus far. Here in round 7, the storyline thus far, as you see the last 3 picks from the AFC West, we've had 6 offensive linemen taken in the first 17 picks of this round. There are 27 picks remaining, and on the clock right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're on the clock for back-to-back selections. Tom Coughlin in his second year as the Jacksonville head coach. There are several first-year head coaches in the National Football League. We've been hearing a lot from Tony Dungy and Jimmy Johnson and have been talking a lot more about Lindy Infante and the Colts draft as he gets a second shot, and Ted Marchibroda with Baltimore, and haven't discussed too much Vince Tobin, although we heard from him throughout our day one coverage with Gary Danielson out in the desert. Jimmy Johnson, first year with Miami. The question, assessing the draft, strong draft or weak draft?
I'm always amused every year when certain individuals say this is a great draft for, you know, receivers, running backs, one thing or another. Or they say this draft overall is not as good a draft as what it was a couple of years ago. It all depends on one thing. If you pick the right players, it's a great draft. If you pick bad players, it's a horrible draft. It doesn't make any difference what round. It doesn't make any difference what position. You pick the right players, then it's a heck of a draft.
And here are the players that Jimmy Johnson selected, hoping that it is a great draft. So, Mel, as we look at these picks, also react to what Jimmy was talking about there.
I think he's right. I think every draft is a solid draft. I think there are certain positions that are stronger than others, but I think you can get good players at any point in any draft. I think when you look at what he's done, I think Zach Thomas could be a real good fifth-round pick. He certainly strengthened his backfield with Pritchett, McPhail, and Jabbar. So Dan Marino is going to have now people to complement him, and it's going to be an interesting battle. You got Kirby, you got Parmalee, and you got Spikes in the mix with some good young players. And you know these good young players are going to make the roster. Jimmy does not draft players and not allow them an opportunity to compete and win a roster spot.
Your thoughts on just when people say it's a strong draft, it's a weak draft, and what Jimmy said I think was interesting there, it doesn't depend on the quality of the players coming out of college, it depends on you finding the right guys in the right spots.
You're exactly right. The pressure goes back to you and your scouting department, and the one thing Jimmy Johnson has always been good at is picking out guys that are self-motivated, as we talked about before, but they go out and they get the job done. They don't come in to be well-liked, they don't come in to make friends, they come in to do business, and that's the most important thing.
And one of the pieces of business that was rumored in sports talk radio throughout South Florida was, would Dan Marino be traded and try to build up some cachet of picks? So Jimmy Johnson said, no, we're going to keep Dan Marino here. As a matter of fact, he intimated with Chris Mortensen earlier that Dan's deal was done in terms of extending it with Miami. Well, the local media reacted interestingly to that, so Jimmy had to backtrack a little bit.
Coach, based on ESPN, you just confirmed that Dan's going to sign a new contract here.
Well, I got to talk to him on that. You know, did I confirm it or did I just talk about it? You know. And,
You just talked about it.
I talked about it.
Oh, come on.
I would think that there is a very good chance that we would be able to finalize some contract talks with Dan Marino in the near future. And we should have more to say on this later. Is anything scheduled at this time, Harv?
Darryl Gardner?
Oh, Darryl Gardner will be here a little bit later on the thing.
He doesn't look like Dan.
Sometimes I let things slip, you know how. But y'all, hey, please, y'all knew it before I did.
So you heard it here first. Dan Marino on his way to retaining his status as Miami Dolphin quarterback. And like John Elway, and probably in this day of full free agency in the NFL, the thing you want to see, these superstars of these franchises staying with their franchises for the rest of their career. Elway's contract earlier this week ensured that, and apparently Dan Marino signing a contract in Miami will do the same. Our coverage of the draft continues with 25 more picks remaining from New York in just a moment.
Honey, look, it's her. That lady from the Sprint commercial's about 10 cents a minute.
Hi, how are you? I just love your dime a minute rate. Oh, isn't that nice? Me too. It's good anywhere in the country. And now I hear you can call all the way to Canada for a dime.
Canada? Really?
Oh, look at that. Special on paper towels.
Dime to Canada? That's bigger news than anything you'll find in there.
This? Oh, this isn't mine. Blech.
Call now to get 10 cents a minute across the U.S. and now even to Canada.
Rule number 52, face off. Rule number 62, interference. Rule number 45, board checking. Rule number 25, to play the game, use a puck. The Stanley Cup playoffs tonight at 7:30. Face it, the NHL rules on ESPN2.
The draft Dodgers play on as we play on here in New York. Our live exclusive coverage of the draft as we approach 5 o'clock now and just past it here in the East. 6 hours thus far in the books today and some 24 picks remain in the draft. Mel, back-to-back receivers taken by Jacksonville.
Clarence Jones could be an interesting pick. He didn't play this year. He's got great physical ability. So does Span, but Span's very inconsistent. He's got to develop more polish and catch the football when it's thrown his direction.
So we see skill position depth Carolina at running back, Jacksonville at wide receiver, as they try to build up those need places, but places they may be able further down the line to address in free agency or develop